All right, everyone, welcome to another. Let's try
You
that
can tell
again.
we're professional. Episode level. See, I can't even say it right. I almost said episode
It's
level 29. What is level 29? I don't
dude.
know. You playing World
All
of
right, let's
Warcraft or
try
something?
that again.
No, this is a great intro. You should go with it.
Oh my goodness. All right, welcome to another exciting episode of Acceptable Accuracy. This is Tyler,
And this is Philip.
and today we are going to be going into part two of A Prepared Citizen. Phil, would you like to recap our part one episode?
Yeah, or what I like to call part deux. It's French
Yeah.
for two. That's a throwback though to like an old Charlie Sheen movie. Hot Shots Part deux. Anyway,
Never even seen
well, it's okay. It's pretty good. I probably saw it when I was like 5. Not really, like 9.
it.
Anyway, so recapping really quickly, part 1, we talked about what it is to be a prepared citizen and the history behind it, from your like Minutemen of the Revolutionary War all the way up to rooftop Koreans of the unfortunate race wars in California during the 90s, and what it is to be able to defend yourself, your family, and potentially your livelihood. I guess use of the deterrent for your livelihood anyway, to be a prepared citizen. So in episode 1, we talked about the absolute basics that you need to have in order to be a prepared citizen. Recapping those items was a semi-automatic rifle with a sighting system, magazines, ammunition, and a sling. We tossed in as well a cleaning kit into that, considering the kind of required as well. Did I miss anything else, Tyler, from the absolute basics?
I think that's it. I mean, we also went over the meme of America and why it's impossible to invade us except for Southern California or
That's
Northern California, actually.
yeah, that's very true. Even Southern California, they only have 10-round magazines. Of course, there was like Magazine Freedom Week or whatever that they had a while back, and at this point, I don't know if there's. I know there's laws or
What does that
restrictions,
even
but
mean? Magazine
Magazine
freedom?
Freedom Week. There was a
Like,
judge in California who ruled the magazine ban unconstitutional. I forget his name. He's
oh,
like,
Benitez?
yes, thank you.
Yeah,
And
Newsom hates that guy.
yeah, and so he basically ruled the law unconstitutional, and it stood for like a week until there was another court that overrode that ruling. And during that week, all of the stores online, I don't know about in person because it takes long to ship there, but online stores were shipping priority magazines to these people that
Oh,
in
for sure.
California, so that they could purchase standard capacity magazines versus your restricted 10-round magazines.
So, for those who bought it during that time, were they grandfathered after the judge overruled it? Or
From my understanding, that is the case because it was not
nice.
illegal at that point. So again, I'm not in California. I am not a lawyer, and I check your laws locally.
All right, fair
Uh,
enough.
any, anyway, so today we're going to actually step into some of what we consider. So we talked absolute basics, and these are the basics of the things that we think you should have right off the bat. We know this is going to get spicy because Tyler and I do not agree on this.
No, we do
So
not.
because I'm the one that's putting the controversial item in here, I'll go ahead and start with it.
Go for
So
it.
again, we talked about the absolute basics. I won't recap because I literally just said them. But for a basics, I think the next item on your list needs to be a battle belt, specifically one that you're getting right along the same time with rifle magazine pouches. Because to me, what good is having magazines if you can't carry them on you? Now, again, you could stuff them into pockets, a backpack,
Cargo pants, bro.
cargo pants from the 1990s, you name it.
You wear
There,
cargo pants.
I try not to. I only wear them during match time when I have to
I
put
wear
magazines in
cargo
them.
pants, and I'm 27. Exactly, for matches, but still.
Yeah. Anyway, that's a personal opinion. You're going to disagree with me, and then I'm going to come over top of you with the trump card. So go ahead and disagree with me.
Well, tonight is the Trump debate. So, for those listening, you clearly now know when we're recording this. So, So I guess we'll just,
Maybe there's like three debates, aren't there?
yeah, fair enough.
Anyway,
This is the first one though, isn't it?
that's
Well,
fair.
granted, I just said Trump debate, so that could mean anything.
Yeah, that's true. We could have recorded this during the Biden Trump debate. You never know. All right, Tyler, disagree with me.
So you say that after getting a rifle, a semi-automatic rifle, in our context, most likely an AR-15,
Yep.
that a prepared citizen should get a battle belt.
Yes,
I disagree with that.
that's fine.
I'd say you should be getting a pistol and some type of concealed carry, or even just a holster for it,
Where are you going
because
to put
now
that holster?
on your belt,
Which belt? Your battle
your
belt.
your regular belt. Granted,
Maybe, maybe.
I do agree that you should be getting a specific concealed carry belt, or at least just something that's more heavier duty than even a flimsy leather belt. Because I tried doing that and it gets flimsy, it flops everywhere. So that's where I would say to get a pistol. Because once again, now I guess the real question is how what do you mean by a prepared citizen? What do you mean
Yeah,
by
kind
that?
of like what we talked
And I
about
think that's
before.
where I think
Yeah.
maybe that's where our disconnect is. Because if you can explain to me what you define a prepared citizen is, then I might agree with you in your context.
Yeah, it would be somebody who's preparing for a disaster, whether natural, man-made, or I guess it would be like type of disasters. um, Somebody who's preparing for that, right? Because I think we talked about during episode 1, we said that there are obviously other ways to be a prepared citizen when it comes to being prepared while concealed carrying a firearm. So my thought was this is outside of that conversation because people talk about that all the time. We actually had a concealed carry episode pretty early on talking about equipment along with that as well. But this is your rooftop Korean moment, right? Where you have to defend yourself, your family, or your store, I suppose,
Hmm.
and the items that you need. So my thinking on the battle belt prior to purchasing a pistol was because you're going to need something to hang that pistol on, right? And
Hmm.
now you could buy a concealed carry belt, right? And you honestly you could probably press it into both. Traditional battle belts are usually an inner and outer belt. You don't typically see people
Well,
carrying with an inner outer belt,
modern
right?
battle belts are tradition. I'd say traditional are basically the ones where you just put over your clothes
Right. So
because the inner outer is more of a recent thing compared to kind of like that T Rex arms. I forgot what they're I think the Orion belt or whatever what they're called. Don't quote me on that, people, because I don't really T Rex arms. You guys are awesome. Please sponsor us. But
yes,
I don't have any T Rex arms gear, and that's why you guys need to sponsor us.
I have a
But
T-Rex arms water bottle.
hey, there you go. So, but that belt where you're kind of putting over your clothes, that would be, I'd say, would be more of a standard, more traditional battle belt versus the more modern ones are the inner outer.
Sure, and I guess that was what I had in mind was more the inner and outer style battle belt. Again, not ideal for concealed carry. Typically, concealed carry, you're gonna have an inner belt just to reduce the profile of it. You could purchase a concealed carry belt because they are typically stiff enough. You could also hang some kind of magazine carriers off of those, so that would be an option as well if you wanted to get into concealed carry sooner. If that was your concern as a prepared citizen as well.
Yeah.
So
If
that's
you're
actually brings up a good point, though, because if you think of a prepared citizen, if there's a time where there is a natural disaster or even a man made disaster, you're not always going to be carrying your AR 15 with you. Like, let's say that there is a natural disaster, there's a lot of systems that are currently offline from power, internet, whatever it may be, but there are still like stores running via generator or something like that. You're not going to walk into a grocery store with an AR-15 slung over your shoulder, right? But you are probably going to want to walk into a grocery store concealed carry. So I could see it your way as well.
Yeah, exactly. And that's where, if you're talking about something where a prepared citizen is someone who is preparing for a disaster or an invasion, then yeah, okay, I agree with that. Then you would need you need a battle belt or a duty belt or a war belt. It's all the same thing. Don't come at me because it is. And I do agree that you need that so you can carry all of your gear, including your pistol. So now, when you say a prepared citizen, you mentioned that you think of Minutemen. So if that's the case when it comes to a battle belt, should you get an inner outer or should it be something you can just quickly put on top of your clothes?
Um, that's actually a great question. And I come from a space where I actually have both, Tyler. I have an older outer belt
Do
that
you really? I
I,
did not know that.
I used to run. There was a two gun in mid Michigan that I used to run, and back then they didn't have the inner outer concept.
Mhm.
Now, technically, I would argue I'd go the inner outer because you could, if you had to, in a quick moment's notice, you could still run an outer belt, especially one that's like the core battle belt or core shinsel. I forget what it's called. I even know what it
Core
says there.
essentials.
Yeah, you could
It's the
even
core
take that.
essentials duty belt or battle belt.
Yep, because that has the ratcheting like front part of it. You could resize that pretty easy onto your like waist if you had to just throw it on really quickly. And I
Mhm.
have actually run it when we practice in the winter. I have actually run it over top of my like sweatshirt and my pants and everything, and it runs just fine. So in that case, that type of inner outer belt setup could do both pretty easily within a
Mhm.
minute's notice, and then be really quick to ratchet into place.
Mhm. I love how you just went with a nice little middle area, but I do agree because like an inner outer is definitely superior in pretty much every way except for putting it on, for speed of putting it on.
Right, unless you're just tossing it over all your stuff.
Exactly. If you're just tossing it over. I mean, I have a blue alpha battle belt that I've done that before too, where I was able to just throw it on quickly, especially on times when I'm just really lazy or if I'm just dry firing. I'll admit it, I just throw it over because I don't feel like putting on. So if I just have basketball shorts on, I just kind of throw it over. And because what's nice is I also have a leg strap. I know you don't, but I have a thigh rig or a the Safari Land thigh shroud or whatever it's called, and that kind of helps keep it secure as well. But yeah, I do agree with that. So if you're talking about a prepared citizen as someone who's preparing for war, then yeah, I agree. Get a battle belt then.
Yeah, and it I was thinking about this too. There's a because I was looking actually a way to continue to use my inner outer belt even when it's cold out and have better grip. Because typically when you're looking at a older style like over your clothing battle belt, they're usually thicker, and
Yep,
then they have instead of being lined with Velcro to interface with the inner belt, they're typically a material that's less slip prone. I forget who makes it. I want to say Haley Strategic. Again, I'm not sure, and I was not prepared to talk about this tonight, so I didn't look it up. But there's somebody who actually makes a uh, inner section that you can put on your outer part of the belt, and then it'll act. It's like a more high friction material, and it'll actually allow you to use your outer belt as a like more traditional outside of like clothing battle belt
that's really cool. Yeah,
or war belt or whatever they used to be called.
there's so many different names.
But
Battle
again,
belt,
you're
war
really
belt, duty
getting.
belt. I guess
I
duty
know,
belt would probably be more like a police
police
officer belt.
officer, yeah.
Yeah.
And again, like now we're just adding stuff onto there. But my other thought was with the battle belt concept was you're going to put all your things on there. It's a lot easier and cheaper than buying like a chest rig or a placard or whatever, and you could potentially conceal it a little bit better. But my other thought is you're
How
going
are
to hang
you gonna conceal a battle belt?
a very large jacket, a rain jacket. Anyway,
I guess
or
a poncho.
poncho,
I
yeah,
was gonna say a poncho would
a
work.
wubby.
I don't even know
Um,
what that is.
Ask Kyle next time you talk to him. Anyway, so then my other thing with that too is you're gonna hang your mag pouches on it to start. Then the next thing I would say is get medical that you also can easily hang on to your that same belt,
How many
and
mag
then to
pouches?
it depends. So if you are doing just rifle, then I don't know, you could probably put at least two on there, maybe three. Depends
Hmm.
on how much you want to load them up and how much you are planning for future expansion. Because you could also invest in like let's say you know you're going to get a pistol, then you can also buy like I have some of the Kiwis that have the pistol and the rifle together, so you can look into that
Hmm.
as well. um, but medical obviously very important, being prepared because you never know what's going to happen. You're already in a disaster scenario, you're going to want it. And then you also later to your point that you can hook a pistol holster on it and potentially a fixed blade.
Hmm. So would you get a pistol first or a fixed blade?
Boy, that's a great question. What do you think? While I noodle on that for a second.
Is money a issue?
Well, I guess that's kind of where I'm coming from this a little bit too, is that you're spending your dollars in the best way possible, in the best order. Uh, that's why I'm hung up actually, because you can buy a fixed blade, not gonna be a great one, but for like $30. Like I think that's the one I have on my belt, and I literally just use it for the zombie invitational because it's a requirement, but it works. It's sharp enough for at least a couple uses.
I would probably, the more I think about it, I'd say a fixed blade because I'm thinking, let's say you need to go hunting and you need to cut up the animal,
Sure.
whereas like you can't really do that with the pistol. And plus, there's going to be times where, of course, you already have your primary, which is your semi automatic rifle, and now your secondary, which would be your fixed blade, to where, let's say, you even get someone is at what a gun, a
Hmm.
rifle, is it better at long distance or short distance?
A rifle,
Yeah,
both, right?
of course, both. But
Yeah.
let's say someone is literally like 3 feet in front of you.
Then you will like what do they call it? You'll hit them over the head with the buttstock because
Because you need to.
you have a. That's the other thing people like to understand is if you have a rifle in your hand, especially if it's rifle length. I mean, you have a melee weapon in your hands.
Exactly.
Worst
You
case
have
scenario.
yeah, you have something you'll have to either find a way to spread your distance or you have a knife now because the person's right there. You can quickly grab it and then go hands on from there. Because obviously, if you get a person, they'll probably fight off you trying to get hit with the rifle. But if they see
Sure,
a
they could
knife,
grab the rifle too. Yeah,
that exactly they can grab the rifle. Whereas a knife, they're not going to try to grab a knife. They're going to try to spread that distance. And from there, if you need to, just drop your knife, bring up your rifle, and then kind of just go from there.
hence
So
why you want to sling.
exactly. Once again, that's why I'm a big. You need a sling. Slings are so important, except for 3 point slings. So, but so yeah, that's where I would say your knife would be your secondary. Now, once you get a pistol, then your knife would be moving over to your tertiary. But
Right.
even then, I'd say those are really the three that you need. But really, yeah, I can see a get your belt, get your mag holster, medical medical, and a knife
I would be curious to
and
look at what
gloves.
your average infantryman has set up. And that there are some caveats to this because obviously we're prepared citizens, we're not an infantryman.
Nope.
Most infantry do not have a sidearm. You have to, from what I understand, you have to qualify with it. And then I'm sure there's requirements. Each armed division probably has their own, but there's probably requirements to carrying a sidearm, right? Like officers, obviously, more likely to have them, but they're also less likely, depending what position they're in, to have a rifle, right? Um, but they are more likely to have a blade of some sort on their kit somewhere because of that exact
Hmm.
same reason what you're talking about.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
But then my argument on that why you would need a pistol is you are not an infantryman and you are not necessarily going to have somebody with you at all times, and even if you do, it's not going to be like you're with a unit like you would be if you were with the military where you have somebody next to you who also has a rifle, right? So having that secondary of a pistol for close up, or if you have a malfunction, or maybe you're faster on your draw than a reload, whatever, blah blah. Think about any scenario, which I guess
Yeah.
walks us into I know it's like okay, it's hard to disagree with anyone else,
Yeah.
which
I'm
I guess
like,
works
no, I,
as
I agree. I'm just like, yeah,
yeah,
pretty much.
which brings us into our the next item. So I think now we're kind of off of like basics, right? And going into the more advanced items. I literally have one like concept for advance, and it was the pistol. Again, because you're already built at the built out the belt. You have your medical, you have the mags for your rifle. Maybe you bought some pistol mags while you were at it. You bought that pistol holster, and now you need a pistol to put into it,
Hmm.
right? How many magazines are we talking about here, Tyler, with your pistol?
Do I have a backpack?
Sure. Why not?
Yeah, that exactly. Because if I don't have a backpack, then my answer would change. So, because I'll even go all the way back to a rifle mags. Because if you say that if I don't have a backpack, then realistically, probably at the most four, because I'll probably have three on my belt and one in my gun. So, if I have a bag, then I'd say still five. And same with pistol, then if that's the case, I'd say minimum five. So, one in my pistol, probably two on my belt, and then two more just somewhere else. Probably in this case would be my backpack.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Especially if you obviously pulling any magazines off of your belt or some kind of chest rig or plate carrier is gonna be fastest. But if you had to reload into pistol or rifle magazines, and you're able to step
Oh, for
behind
sure.
or
If
away or you're done engaging, it's gonna be a lot faster for you to cycle the magazines out of that backpack back onto your belt and then reload your mags and pistol mags and rifle mags
exactly.
as
I
well.
would be I would be having a terrible day if I somehow went through my 58 rounds of rifle and mag ammo and then let's see three probably 20 rounds 60 and 60 rounds of pistol and I'd still need to reload from my bag.
That would yeah, if you're still alive, good on you.
Exactly. If I'm still alive
That's
after
like a
all
zombie
that,
scenario there.
it really is. I'm having a really bad day. And I shouldn't be alive at that point. That's so true. So, yeah, that's what I would say. I'd say three, pro- minimum of five, and then
Yep,
I would. I mean, how my belt setup is now would be my pistol, a some gloves, my tourniquet, two pistol mags, one rifle, a dump pouch, and my IFAK.
and a partridge in a pear tree.
Yeah, exactly.
So
So that's what's.
are we talking like 40 round Glock magazines with extensions here, Tyler?
I no, because those are way too long. I will not be able to move around, and it's already hard to reload. I I have Glock 19X magazines, which are 19 rounds, and I think they're actually a pretty good size, pretty good length. I mean, I could see going with mag extensions, maybe going up to like the 22 to 24 range, but at the same time, I'm already thinking about the weight on my hips, and then just also how long they would be. So
Yeah, and you're looking at getting potentially like snag issues, right? Where the longer the
exactly.
magazine, the more like you are to snag it. Um, and then the more things you have like protruding off of your belt, the more likely you are to get snagged. So if you think about having a rifle mag on your belt, those are gonna be pretty long as it is. You could argue that as long as your pistol mags aren't longer than your rifle mag, but again, you're now instead of like one or two long items on your belt that are a little bit wider or from end to end, you're looking at some things that are a little bit smaller, more likely to get hung up on stuff. I run matches, even like the 5K, Wolverine 5K, and the Zombie Invitational, which have opportunities to get hung up on stuff. Probably not as much if you're out and about, I suppose, or in the woods more like longer period of time. But I've never had my extended magazines get stuck. But I only run with like the normal mag with a base plate extension, so 23 round magazines.
Exactly. And that's kind of what I was saying. I'd say 23, 24 max. So, because I don't know if I want to go much longer than that to where now, because not only is it longer, but it's also thinner. That not only would it be a long mag, but also it's also thinner than an AR-15 mag. So I feel like it'd be easier for it to get caught into things. I mean, I've had my sling get caught on my pistol mags before.
Yeah, that's actually a good call out, and why belt setup is so important with a sling.
hmm So when it
Um,
comes to pistol, what about ammo? What would your ammo choices be? How
well,
much actually too?
NATO round ball or ball, ball, uh, NATO ball ammo, right, Tyler?
What do you mean by that?
I'm just joking. Because NATO, you're not allowed to use hollow points.
Well,
It's
I
against the
understand
Geneva
that, but
Convention. So I was kind of joking about having
I
ball
know. I
ammo.
figured that's what you meant, but I'm like, so we're not in the
Yeah,
military.
right. I joke. No, more inclined to have hollow point rounds on you, similar to what you would have in a concealed carry
hmm
situation, just because they are more effective. Obviously, concealed carry. rounds that are hollow points are more expensive than your typical ball type ammo. So if you were looking to shave some dollars off, maybe have a magazine or two of hollow points, and then the rest be ball ammo.
Hmm.
Because I
And
mean,
also,
it's in the end, it's still ammo. It still goes bang.
exactly, and it's better that than nothing. So of
Right.
course, and when it goes back to if money isn't an issue, then yeah, for sure, I would say gets be carrying some hollow point rounds. I would also say that you should, for us living in Michigan. I mean, granted, we're not that far north, but if we were more in the wilderness and like a big animal comes, like a bear, I'd say carry some bear rounds. Probably have one mag on your belt that has bear rounds in it.
Yeah,
That's
that's a good
my
call out.
personal opinion. Because that's what I
Yeah.
do when I hike. I'll have mainly my hollow point rounds, but I'll have one. I'll specifically have at least one extra mag on my belt or easy access. That's a bear round in case I need to switch over.
And it's interesting to think about too, where a capacity question could be asked here as well. I was naturally just assuming 9 millimeter because that's what I use,
Oh, for sure,
but you could also make the argument towards something like
10
a 10
mil.
millimeter because
Hey,
yeah, you could hunt with it, and you can take down most like predators with it as well too. Again, you're looking at ammo compatibility issues with picking up other ammo around
yeah,
or finding other ammo. But if you have enough with you and it's your secondary, uh, there's an argument to be made if you have 5 mags full of 10 millimeter. It's
that's
probably
true.
the likelihood of getting through all that is probably pretty low.
Exactly.
Again, unless we're
You're,
fighting zombies, in which case,
yeah,
yeah,
you need as much ammo as you can get. That's true. I
right.
mean, that's
Or a
where,
crossbow.
yeah. Well, that's where you would have your. That's what your rifles for primarily, anyway. So that's what you're going to be using mostly. Or
Right.
how often are you going to be using your pistol? Probably not.
That's fair. That's fair. I guess it depends on like I actually didn't even put this in like the next level stuff, but like and I'm gonna add it to the list. No, I guess I did. Like let's say you had a suppressed firearm, then you could make an argument about having subsonic 45. I guess all 45 is subsonic. Having 45 or some
I
kind of
was about to say,
subsonic,
are there supersonic 45s?
no, or having some kind of subsonic 9 millimeter or something like that, just for like nothing's ever perfectly quiet, but again, you're eliminating the sound signature of breaking the sound barrier. There's a lot to be argued. But moving on, though, I kind of what you were talking about earlier and what we mentioned with any kind of disaster, there's not going to be there could be a partial disaster. You could be some still partial rule of law. Um, I would argue that you'd probably want to look into a concealed carry holster as well for that firearm.
Hmm. So the question is, in this situation, am I ever going to be home, or am I just going to be out and about?
Well, it depends. Like if you're a prepared citizen, who's said, "I'm gonna, in the case of a natural or human-made disaster, if I can, I'm gonna stay at home as long as possible."
For sure, protect your castle,
Yep.
and
Then
that's where you're
yes,
safest most of the time. That's
correct.
why I argue for a get home bag versus a bug out bag.
Right.
Very rarely will you need to actually bug out. Now, if you live in the city, that's a whole other story. But even if you
Yeah.
just live in the suburbs, you're usually okay.
So with the concealed carry option, kind of like I mentioned earlier, let's say there's only like you could still go potentially to a store, but you still have that risk. Or again, and we love as firearms owners to talk about these type of scenarios that will hopefully never happen in our
For
lifetime.
sure.
But let's say that there is an event that happens where it is a natural disaster, man-made disaster, and you're like, dude, I cannot do this on my own.
Hmm.
I need to go talk to my neighbors, right?
Yeah,
I know that I have neighbors in my neighborhood that own firearms as well too, and be like, hey, let's work on some kind of neighborhood watch, or let's talk about outfitting the rest of the neighbors. I'm going to go over to visit those neighbors, and I know them, but I am not going to go over there with my rifle, right? Unless
hmm,
I know them really well,
yeah,
which I don't necessarily. I'm not at that level with those neighbors, right?
yeah.
So one of them I am, but the other one I'm not, right? But so having a concealed carry option
Suppose I
with
know some of
you,
your neighbors.
yeah,
I know
you know
some of
who I'm
their
talking about.
signs.
Yep.
I know, yeah, both of them.
Yeah, we have one neighbor that goes to the same church as us, and then there's another neighbor down
Yes.
the road that does not, but we have a very similar firearms
That's
choices.
awesome.
Anyway,
Yeah, I have no idea, and that's an area that I can definitely do better. And I have no idea about my neighbors, but truthfully, considering my neighborhood, I doubt it.
that's fair. But let's say you want to have that communications with your neighbors and you still want to go out
Oh, for
armed, but
sure.
you don't want to walk to your neighbor's house with a rifle and get shot,
Hmm.
right? Then that would be a potential option.
For sure. I mean, you should totally have a gray flannel on with with a cap that's super bent, with sunglasses and Solomon shoes and gray pants
Gray
and
man
and a mullet.
in a mullet. Oh, I didn't know that was required to be gray man.
I'm
I thought
kidding,
you
or at
could.
least like long hair.
Oh, interesting.
Like, man, I feel like a lot of these gray men just like to grow out their hair. A lot of veterans do it. I don't know if have you seen noticed that,
Yeah, I think it's because
or
they're
at least they go through a phase of growing out their hair. Probably because
either
they
they
have to
got like
buzz it.
majestic they have majestic beards or they have
Hmm.
majestically long hair or both. And
That's
I think
so
that's
true.
just because they were not allowed to have either in the military unless they were some kind of special forces.
Exactly. Some kind
Because
of
you
spec
again,
op. Have to go like undercover or something.
right. So I think a lot of
Hmm.
your average infantry people are out. They're like, dude, I'm never trimming my hair that short again, and I'm going to grow a beard.
Oh, for sure.
So yeah. Anyways, that argument to having a concealed holster in that case, where
Oh, I agree with
you
that.
still need to be able to function in your neighborhood while you are able to defend yourself, but you are
Yeah.
not like actively you're not at the point where you're actually having to carry your rifle out with you. And now
Yeah.
that may happen at some point after you talk to your neighbors, be like, hey, just so you know, we're setting up a neighborhood watch and you're going to see, people with rifles out.
And this is where you have your backpack and your folding stock AR pistol, right?
No, and deploy it while while they're beating on you with a baseball bat.
No, I'm saying you have it in there. Well, yeah, of course you would just draw your pistol and your pepper spray slash taser.
I mean, if that's what you want to do, that's fine. That's
I
not
don't
on
know
I don't
about
have that on my
taser, but
list.
I mean, I'd say it's probably a good idea to have some pepper spray on you in
That's
case,
fair because
because
there are
you're
still opportunities where you don't need lethal.
exactly. So I agree, and that's also where I did allude to this earlier. How if you're gonna have a concealed carry setup, there are three things you need: a pistol, a holster, and a good belt. So I would definitely say that if you're gonna get a concealed carry holster, you should get a concealed carry belt as well. Now, one thing that's really nice is Blue Alpha, please sponsor us. But Blue Alpha, their duty belts, they also have their low. I forgot what it's called, but it's like they have an inner belt that you can double up as a concealed carry belt as well, which
Oh,
I've
nice.
done. Yeah, and I've done that. I've carried with it. It's not as thick as like a as my core belt, which is what I use to conceal carry. Hey, Core Essentials, sponsor us too. That'd be awesome. And yeah, my core ratcheting belt or like a next belt, but it works. It works just fine, and I'm able to conceal carry with it. And then let's say I can take my holster off, tighten my belt, and throw my duty belt right on top of it. So actually, now that I think about it, that would be really nice to do. That's actually really nice to have. Why don't I do that more? I
There
don't
you
know.
go.
Yeah. Well, probably because I really, really like the ratcheting system versus whereas like the Blue Alpha concealed carry belt is Velcro. So of course, every time I sit down, I'm
Yeah.
like, you can just hear the shh. I'm
Yep.
just undoing and hooking it. And then of course, when I stand up, you hear it again. Whereas with the ratcheting, it's just click, I'm good to go. I get to be fat and happy when I'm sitting down. I have to be uptight when I'm standing up, man. It's great.
That's awesome.
So yeah. Oh man.
All
Do you have
right. So
any other thoughts?
for advanced, that's about it. You at that point you've got what would be considered like a lightweight loadout ability to get quick access to magazines you can reload to. You have primary, secondary, and potentially a tertiary with a fixed blade of some sort. And there are plenty of people out there who are way more knowledgeable than I am that would argue this is probably a fantastic setup. Maybe throwing a chest rig or whatever. And some people are like, well, getting into advanced, looking at body armor and that kind of stuff is not practical in these types of situations, right?
Mhm.
So at
It's
this
heavy,
point,
man.
yeah, I do have one kind of intermediate item that I didn't really think about that would fall potentially into advanced as well,
A
versus like the
radio.
next level advanced plus. Actually, I have that further down.
I know, but
But
as I think
is
about it more, I feel like we need a
yeah,
radio sooner
that's
than a plate carrier.
that's fair. That's actually yeah. So I'm gonna move that up into advanced plus because I also put in a rifle light.
Well, yes, I agree with that.
Yep.
That's true. I didn't really talk about that. But I do agree. I feel like I, f- I think you should put a. If you don't have a, you should always have a way to PID everything,
Right.
identify everything. So that means you should have a light. So that's true because I know for me right now, well, I guess it would be my competition AR. It doesn't have a light on it, but my home defense AR most definitely has a light on it. So
Right.
yeah.
That's honestly why I almost forgot to include it in the list because I was thinking going over my rifle, my primary rifle, which is a my competition rifle, which does not have a light on it, but my one of my home rifles does.
Hmm.
But I would think that this would actually I would probably even move this up into the advanced category
A
where
rifle light.
like you're buying what's that?
A rifle light.
Yeah.
I
Just
think
because
should.
again, PID
I
is
think it
so
should be
important.
basic. Actually,
Interesting.
I think you should have a rifle light before you even get a belt.
Oh, I would say maybe even before you get a pistol for sure.
Oh, 100%.
Hmm. Huh. Well, that's something people can argue about with us, which is really fine because everybody has their opinion.
Yeah. Which is ironic because I completely forgot about it. But once again, I was looking at my competition rifle, not my home defense rifle, which would be more in tune of what my, I guess, crap hits the fan would be. Granted, that's also in 300 blackout. So, which
Well,
once again, it depends. If I'm going to be able to get home, then yeah,
yeah.
I probably would maybe move around with the 300 blackout. It's just once again, I'm more likely to get 5.56 rounds if I ever need to do a pickup
Right.
versus 300 blackout.
In a rifle light, I think about too, where you could have just a basic flashlight. In worst case scenario, if you had a basic flashlight, you could duct tape it onto your rifle and
Oh, for
then
sure.
use it as such. Right now, there are some advantages with a rifle light. Easier to access quickly with a pad of some sort. Like you get more lumens, not always. I actually have a really, really high end lumen flashlight that my wife got for me. It's like
Hey, there you
2,000
go.
lumens, but it's
Holy
huge,
cow.
and I don't think I could attach that to my rifle.
Hmm.
Maybe,
Oh,
but again,
I, yeah.
there's always options.
I just got a Streamlight, a Pro
Yep.
Tac 1000 lumen. I love that thing with a
Yeah.
pressure pad.
Same.
Yeah.
And if you
Granted,
think of
the pressure pad needs some help, but
And how many situations can you think of where natural disaster or human disaster where power gets knocked out? Right? Even around here in the frozen north in the middle of winter or in like the storm season, power gets knocked out on a regular basis.
oh,
Now,
for sure.
obviously people don't fall into chaos, but let's say World War III kicks off. One of the first things that's going to get hit is going to be cyber attacks against the grid.
Yep.
Guarantee.
No
Right?
question.
And going to knock the grid out. People are already stressed out because we're at war. The power's out. There's gonna be opportunistic like looting. Um, you know, people doing dumb stuff at night where you're going to want a way to be able to again identify your friendly neighbor down the road from your not so friendly neighbor like in a block over who has ill intent, right?
Yeah.
You don't want to accidentally shoot your buddy who's coming up the road and be like, hey, I was just checking in on you.
Yeah, exactly. So I agree. And that's why you need that PID. So, and that's why I would argue that it should be in your basic list.
Yeah, that's fair.
Because how often are, because if you have your rifle, how often are you going to be able to use a flashlight like on your offhand?
Yeah, again, unless you tape it to your gun.
Exactly. So just some kind of light on there. It doesn't necessarily
Right.
need to be a
That's fair.
weapon mount, an actual like a stream light or a surefire or cloud defense. But
Right.
I would
Some
say
kind of
some type of weapon mount light on there. It'd be nice
yep.
if you had like something that you can actually mount on top of either M lock or whatever or the pick rail.
Right. And the nice thing about having it mounted on your rifle too is like, let's say you do identify something that is a problem, and let's say they are also armed, and they didn't see you, and all of a sudden you have your rifle up. They see you, they go to pull there or whatever, then your rifle's already up.
Exactly.
You're not
And then
having to like do
yeah,
one of these weird things where you got a light in one hand and your pistol in the other, trying to figure that out when you've not
exactly.
got experience with that. So
What
yeah,
will be really nice too is I know they're like these third party accessories where it'll be like a light cap or something. So this way you don't actually ND your light as
ND. Yeah.
well.
Thousand Concepts sponsor us because I know they make some good stuff.
Is that them? I don't know.
It is.
I know there's
Or
some out
100
there that
Concepts.
have it.
Wow, that's terrible. I even have some of their stuff too. Like honestly, I got it because I was so frustrated with having to remove my scope caps every time I
Th
went and shot in competition. I
Those
wanted
are
something.
nice. I
Yeah.
know. I saw them again. I saw them again last time we went out. I'm like, I kind of like that. I kind of want that because what I
You,
have right now is it's what came with my primary arms, but it of course because they flip up, they flip out, but I feel like they're just in the way. They're kind of bulky, and of course now this is more the the videographer in me, my because I have an Insta 360 Go action camera that I mount on my hat. If I don't, if I forget to move the scope caps out of the way, the scope caps literally cover up half my camera lens, so I can't really even see what I'm doing.
yeah, that's funny, and that's nice thing about the 100 Concepts. Like their stuff goes and stows like right above and doesn't cause any kind of like restriction of your view that you don't already have with your turrets on your LPVO, for example, if you have
Mm-hmm.
them on there.
Yeah,
So,
that's a good point. That makes
yep.
sense. I'll have to look more into them.
Now you can also, I personally own 100 Concepts. I got them on sale. You can 3D print them. I've done enough 3D printing now where it is completely viable to do that. Buy some bungee, use some kind of tape or whatever. I wanted something that was going to be maybe a little bit more durable, and that I didn't have to worry about not fitting because I having to reprint it multiple times based on like the multitude of ways that you can print something, right?
Oh yeah,
So
there it is. 100 concepts.
yeah, bro. If you order some, let me know because I have to actually order one for my light. I have not done that yet.
Oh yeah,
But
this one is for the light.
and then the other cool thing is they make them as well with uh like shoot, I'm really brain farting today. With a like the honeycomb grid that's supposed to help with like diffusing a glint if it's sunny out.
Hmm.
And you can get those,
These,
and they actually make it so you can do both a cap and that, and then it actually folds up nicely again on top of the scope. It's really slick. Like it is a really smart design, and it's one of those things where you're kind of like, "Duh, why didn't I think about that?"
yeah. Holy cow, these are expensive.
Wait for them to go on sale, dude. I guarantee you, like during Thanksgiving, they'll have them on sale for Black Friday.
Wow.
Yeah, but
Okay,
they're
I
not
will
cheap,
be.
but they do work really well. They're really well
Oh,
set up.
I get it. I agree, but I need to get a. I gotta get a chest rig first.
Fair enough.
Because
I actually saw one I was gonna send you today, but it was sold out. It was one of your from
well,
Blue Alpha.
I would get one from HRT only because I already have a bunch of placards for my HRT. So it'd be nice if I got an HRT chest rig.
Gotcha.
So this way I can. That was even something that Daryl and I spoke about a while ago. How that's one of the reasons why he runs his plate carrier at the Zombie Invitational because that's what all his placards are. So
Right.
that's why
Yeah,
I'm like, well,
this is like
mhm,
$50 from Blue Alpha. Some kind of
yeah,
clearance or something.
I remember I looked, I forgot what it was, but I think for me to get a chest rig and the shotgun placard, it'd be like $100.
Oh,
So
that's not bad. That's
no,
actually really pretty good.
I agree. I was like, I just keep forgetting to order it. So I should probably do it tonight. HRT sponsor us too, or just send it to me. That'd be awesome.
Well, don't forget too, we might also share a shotgun, which that
Yeah.
brings a whole other. Anyway,
Well, but at the same time, the chest rig for the shotgun is just holding all of the shotgun shells. That's all it is.
right. Yep. I'm just
So
thinking
that
like
doesn't
if
really
you're
matter.
using magazines, shotgun magazines instead of anyway.
Oh, I forgot about that.
So kind of moving on. One item I think you mentioned earlier that I would like to move up into the more advanced, like along with purchasing pistol was a radio. And I would honestly say, for prepared citizens' perspective, having a singular radio is not enough. You would
Hmm.
need multiple radios
Yes.
because, let's say, you have a family, you need ability to communicate with them. Like, let's say you're outside the home, like you don't want to get shot coming in. You could at least notify them that you're headed back into the home or that you're coming back or whatever. I actually have people will poo poo these all they want, but they're cheap and they work just fine. I have I got like 8 Baofeng radios. Um, Maybe not that quite that many, but I got them like on sale in a pack, and I actually do rotate charging them. They actually hold their charge pretty long period of time. But my thought was, again, if you have a scenario where nobody going solo is never a great idea, and let's say your power does go out, World War II is kicked off, you are trying to do some kind of neighborhood watch, right? The ability to be like, I know that 95% of my neighbors are not going to have a radio with them, but if I have radios I can hand out to at least one household that I can trust, then I still have the way of communicating with them, right? And along with those ball things, in ears come with them as well too, so you can have at least somewhat lower profile communication without like broadcasting to the whole neighborhood every time you go to use those radios. And then I even use Chirp to configure all of them. They're all set up so I can literally pull them off the shelf, hand them to somebody, and say, "Don't." And they're actually locked out by default as well. So they're locked. They're set to the channels that I would plan to use. And I would literally have to hand them out. If you need something, just use the radio, hit the button, you'll get a hold of whoever else in the
Hmm.
neighborhood without you having to give them any instruction whatsoever.
Yep,
And they're
I
cheap.
agree.
You're looking at like $25 a radio.
Exactly. That's why radios are so important to be able to communicate with each other, whether it's your family or your loved ones. And of course, in this situation where it's an end of the world, that's where you can start using ham frequencies if you don't have your license. By the way, fun fact. I believe. Am I wrong? No, I'm right. I really
You're
gotta
right.
get
In
that.
in
I
the event of
really
an emergency scenario, you can use ham radio.
I really, really gotta get my license. I was close. It's funny because Phil and I, what, a year and a half ago, we were planning on getting our licenses. We were studying. We had the ham radio app that we're taking quizzes, practicing. I think I got like 90% of the way done and then I kind of just stopped. So now I forgot everything.
Yeah, I there's a lot to be argued to where time can be spent elsewhere. Obviously, learning how to use a radio, proper radio etiquette is important. Understanding the basic functionality of a radio, the limitations of radio, limitations of frequencies are important. But you can also get your GMRS license for $10, and they're good to go. And
Yeah.
it's not quite as long, obviously, but from like a distance perspective, but it's still pretty darn good. And there's like there's a repeater in my neighborhood, my area of the city, and it's not close, but I pick up signal from that thing just fine.
That's awesome.
So the range on GMRS is actually pretty decent. Now, can I get a hold of a buddy across the city? Probably not.
Yeah, I was about to
Maybe
say,
with
can you
ham,
get a
could
hold
I?
of me?
With ham, could I do that? Maybe. Yeah, I could get a hold of you. I
Yes,
think
you
you're close enough.
can.
No, via GMRS, I could via the
No.
repeater anyway.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like, I feel
Yeah.
with the ham you could GMRS. Like, yeah, it'd be like okay.
Yeah, even with ham, there's some limitations because yeah, you are transmitting at higher wattage, but if your stuff line of sight issues, that's still a problem.
That's crazy. And that's why I needed to study more so I could learn about that stuff because I already
Right.
forgot all of that.
Anyway,
But
any other thoughts on radios, Tyler?
I think that's all I've got. I think I'd say because we still have quite a bit more to go. So I'd say, I think, do you have any closing thoughts?
That's a great call out. So closing thoughts on what we covered today, really quickly recapping it for basics would be battle belt with mag pouches, medical, rifle light we kind of decided was more in the basic level. And then going advanced, you're looking at a pistol with magazines, ammo, concealed carry holster option, and then radios as well
Well,
on
and of
top of it.
course, a holster for your pistol on your battle belt,
Correct.
too.
Yep.
Probably
Agreed.
some type of higher return, at least a level two,
And that
whether it's
this setup is a really, if you stop here, this is honestly a pretty good like setup for a basic setup for a prepared citizen that's going to give you above and beyond most people that are going to be around you.
oh, 100%.
Now, price wise, you're probably looking at the price starts to spike here pretty quick, right? Because you're looking at another firearm. Radios aren't bad, but you're looking at magazines, more ammo, a light. You're looking at man, easily another $1,000 on top of what you already spent with your
At
rifle setup.
least. Well, I mean, you're
Yep.
looking at your pistol, depending on what pistol you get. My pistol alone is $1,000.
Yeah, if you want like a Glock 19 MOS or something like that, it's gonna be a little bit less,
That's
right?
still
And
like
you're gonna get a gray
650.
pistol. Oh,
And
dang.
that's, yeah, I looked it up. I was curious because we
Okay.
had a buddy
Wow.
recently ask us about Glock. Well, asked me about my pistol, and I kind of recommended to get a Glock, probably MOS. I looked it up. A Glock 19 MOS is 649.99 right now.
Dang, that's crazy, dude. You can shop sales and you can get better deals and that kind of stuff too. You could even get potentially police trade-ins. I was listening to another podcast today where they saw police trade-ins that were like Glock 17s, Glock 19s that were coming in with like Gen 1 RMRs on
Hmm.
them, which is crazy because not only do you get like a Glock 19 pistol that's probably lightly used because it belonged to a police officer, you're also getting an RMR, which is a fantastic red dot. Now it has its limitations, especially the original ones had some shorting issues, but it's still fantastic red dot
Hmm.
that's going to last you forever. Um, so that's an option. Get a
How
police
much
trade of
was
some
it? Do
sort.
you remember?
They didn't say,
Oh,
unfortunately.
okay.
Yep. Anyway, so real quick on dad advice or life advice, Tyler, what do you got for us? Or closing thoughts? I guess I didn't give you an opportunity for closing thoughts.
No, I think closing thoughts, we kind of, you hit it pretty square in the head, and I spoke about it, kind of my thoughts already as well. So when it comes to dad advice, don't take life too seriously. I know right now, as of today's recording, I was even talking, my team and I were even talking about it at work, how there's so much going on right now with elections and politics and financial crises, or whatever the plural is. And there's a lot going on. And we have definitely, it's really easy for it to allow that fear and that anxiety to come, but it's making sure that you surround yourself with the right people. You have that good support system, and embracing it's okay to be, I guess, I don't want to say childish, but childlike, to just relax, take a deep breath, let go, and just have fun. So don't take life too seriously.
Hmm.
It's just chill. It's okay. And this is coming from a guy who his whole life has been called the serious guy in the group.
Interesting. Maybe. I guess I don't really see that necessarily. You are a little more. Maybe you've changed since you
Oh,
were younger.
I've changed a lot.
Hmm.
I've definitely changed a lot as I've matured and grown up, which is kind of hilarious to think about. And a part of it too is Phil knows this, but coming from divorced family, single mom home, immigrant mom, I was forced to grow up early, and because of that, it's a trauma response. That's what it is. It's being forced to grow up early. So, but now that I've been able to identify that, it's realizing, oh, it's okay. I don't have to prove myself. My worth isn't in my achievement. And my worth isn't in any of that, but my worth is in, for me as a Christian, my values in Christ and
Hmm.
who he says that I am. And of course, like you have, like, from, of course, like that also doesn't mean I can be a slob and be irresponsible and do nothing. Like, I still need to be a good citizen and a good worker and a good employee. But at the same time, it's, I do good. I do what I am because it's an outflow of that love and acceptance of Christ, not because I'm trying to gain his favor or gain his love or those around me. Because end of the day, I've talked about this many times before in the podcast, how people pleasing is self abandonment. So, and a lot of times people pleasing stems from that 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 fear of people abandoning you, that fear of abandonment. But in reality, if you people please, you're abandoning yourself, and it's just not worth it. So just relax, drop your shoulders a little bit, which is kind of hilarious as now as I think about it. Kind of ironic as we're talking about a prepared citizen at the end of the world
Right.
situation. And that's probably why I'm thinking about it. So, what about you, Philip?
And I guess that like this preparedness mindset um of end of the world or natural disaster or human disaster has me thinking as well too, where it's good to have a mental plan at least for situations that could cause you stress,
Yeah.
right? I come from a good line of Dutch individuals who are always stressed out about everything and feel guilty about everything, right? um, there's always a lot of with the elections, like you said, there's a lot of trepidation and stuff like that. There's been in my industry, there's been a lot of layoffs lately, a lot of pending layoffs and that kind of stuff. And it's always good to think mentally of like, how are you going to react and what are you going to do in the case of a situation, a bad situation happening, right? So let's say it is job related.
Hmm.
What is kind of your plan instead of just freezing up, not knowing what to do, freaking out, and it's all going to happen anyway, but getting out of it and being able to move on and having a plan to at least act, right? So you don't freeze, you don't deer on the headlights.
Yep.
And even if it's a very basic plan, or even if it's a way just to mentally prepare yourself for something like that, again, job loss, or let's say that like you've got parents that are getting older, like how are you going to handle that situation as they get older and can't really take care of themselves? At least having something in your mind to be prepared for. Now, it is impossible to prepare for everything, right?
Oh, 100%.
But at least those scenarios that are a little bit more likely are the ones that eat at you. Instead of letting it eat at you, have some kind of plan in place. And again, as Christians, you always want to like say like it's all in God's hands, right?
Yeah.
That is the case, and that you can definitely fall back on that as well too. But it's not a bad idea to also plan because in the end, in the end, if you have a family and you still have to like provide for them, yes, God will provide, but it also helps to have a plan on how to continue to provide for your family.
Exactly. And that's something I spoke with a buddy a while ago, how the goal is, if an emergency does happen, especially in the context of financial, the goal is for that to not be emergency, but more an inconvenience.
Right.
Because let's say I referenced this in the last episode, how you've got Dave Ramsey, how, of course, I don't agree with everything that he teaches, but I agree with his baby steps. I think they're a great thing to follow. And let's say, I know people are like, well, Dave, you're so outdated. Having $1,000 emergency fund is not enough. And he says, the whole purpose of $1,000 emergency fund isn't because it's going to handle all your emergencies. It's there so at least you have something to get started. At
Right.
least you're prepared. So this way, a blown tire, where it's like, I don't know what, $200, it's $300. It's not, you're not freaking out. It's a, oh well, all right, I'll just get a new tire then. It stinks, it sucks, but whatever. I'll just get it and kind of move on from there. Because I can't remember the stat, but I think it's like 70 or 80% of Americans don't even have $1,000 in their emergency fund.
Yeah,
Isn't that
that's a real
crazy?
risk. Yeah.
That's crazy
And
to me.
the other thing you have to consider too is that with $1,000 emergency fund, yeah, it may not be enough money, but it's at least a bridge. People got plenty of stuff around their house that they could sell,
Oh, for
right?
sure.
Things they don't use anymore or things that have value that they could sell, whether it's a vehicle potentially. Let's say you have two vehicles, but you've lost a job, right? You
Hmm.
could sell a vehicle, you have enough money, you still have a vehicle left, plus you have your emergency fund if you have
Yep.
to repair that vehicle. Um, Obviously, if you are into firearms, a lot of us are gonna have a bunch of extra firearms on hand, but it does take a little while to get those sold, right? And you don't
Yeah.
want to be freaking out in the moment, and you want to get full value off of those, so that you could potentially provide for yourself a little bit longer, your family a little bit longer. Now, obviously, there's things like unemployment and whatnot, and you can only rely on that so much because it is a government, to like, I guess it's technically funded by employers, but um, it's that bridge, right? That $1,000 is that bridge to be able to get you to like, I have at least a little bit of cash in hand. I can figure out how to get more.
Hmm. Exactly. So, but
Sweet. With that, I think that's it, Tyler.
I agree.
Next time on the Acceptable Accuracy podcast, we're going to actually do episode 3 of this. We're going to look into what we call advanced plus and even next level items that you could have as a prepared citizen in the event of a disaster,
Hmm.
right? So check out that. We'll probably also touch on things like equipment is only good if you're not training and using it and practicing with it.
Yeah,
So we'll touch a little
exactly.
bit. We'll touch a little bit on that as well too. How do you get the basics? What can you do if you necessarily can't afford training? What are alternate sources of training that you could get? And we'll dig into that as well. Anything else, real quick, Tyler, before we officially close out this episode of the Acceptable Accuracy podcast?
Yeah. Remember, everyone, to like, comment, subscribe. Send us a question if you have to acceptableaccuracy@gmail.com. Even though now that I think about it, I don't think I've checked that email in a while. So I should probably double check and make sure that we've even got stuff. But yeah, that's all I've got. We'll see you next week unless you got something else.
No, that's it. See you guys, and we'll talk. Well, we'll talk at you soon. See ya.
Yeah. All right. Bye.